Hello, everyone. This is Thomas Pepin, NHL Talk. I'm Thomas Pepin, and let's talk about the NHL. Uh, second stream of the day, which I don't know if I've done this before, but new to me. Actually, on that note, that's a good thing to start off with. So, I think I've done all my, for the most part, testing of um, NHL 23 because I was going to be doing streams. So one as Be a Pro and the other one as franchise mode. And so I think I've done, for the most part, all my testing, and I think I'm ready to go to start doing the streams. I don't think I'll do it quite yet. I'll probably save it for next round, I'm guessing, is when I'll start. Um, because yeah, there's just a couple other things I want to test out because I don't know if I said before, but I haven't played the game for almost 10 years. So last version I had was NHL 14, which I think was the last one with a good rating, which is the reason why I kept playing it and said screw it with the rest. But um, anyways, yeah, I just want to make sure that I've tried everything before I move on and start doing the streams, and then also figure out exactly what I'm gonna stream because so what I've done at least with the franchise mode is I'll edit lines after every game if there's an injury and all that kind of stuff, and I'm trying to figure out exactly what I'm going to stream, what I'm not going to stream, and all that. Then likewise for Be a Pro, if I should stream, if I should play all games, if I should stream all games, and all that kind of stuff. So in addition to testing, I also want to try to figure out exactly, so more or less just plan exactly what I'm going to stream and how I'm going to stream it and all that. So probably next round is when I'll start doing it. Um, on the positive side, everything's gone extremely well. So I've played on the hardest mode for franchise as well as Be a Pro, and so for franchise, back to back years, I think I've been President's Trophy winner. Didn't do well in the playoffs, and then for Be a Pro, I've well, so far I've been like 2 points per game, 3 points per game, which is pretty good. I took a look at other people that stream NHL 23, and they weren't performing that well. I didn't look at everybody, but some of the main ones, they're not playing that well. So, anyways, so I think it's going to be good content. We'll see, of course, but yeah. So, anyways, so probably next round is well when I'll get to that stuff. Last bit of housekeeping before I start. I forgot to mention last stream, and I forgot to mention at the first round. I did, started a playoff beard for the playoffs. It's a tradition every season. I do a playoff beard. Now, of course, I can't grow a great beard. I wouldn't say patchy, but it's just not very good on the cheeks. But anyways, yeah. I don't know if there's any other people that do traditions like growing the playoff beard. So, anyways, just a thought, maybe for next year if you didn't do it this year. But yeah. So that's that. Now we'll get to the subject of today, which is previews for the two series that start today. So Leafs versus Panthers, and then Stars versus Kraken. I'm going to do it the same way that I did it for the first round. So take a look at the data points that I think are most relevant, and then give my predictions basically. And I don't think there was anything else really. Oh, and just so the other thing is the schedules in the description, at least what's posted so far. And then that's basically it. So let's get to it. Just a sec to get things pulled up. Let's put this over here. Cool. So we'll start with. I guess we might as well start with the soonest game. So that's going to be Panthers versus Toronto. And so just to mention, well, first, if you haven't seen my streams before, as always, done on the spot, no prep work except for the subject. And then, well, the only reason I have some sort of format is because I did this for the first round, so just going to follow the same format. Second thing is the data points that I mentioned previously that people should not consider, that other people talk about and give weighting to. So last 10 games before the playoffs, people talk about that. And second thing is season series between teams. Neither have a correlation with playoff outcomes. So essentially, and I double checked also about, I forget which one I didn't check. But anyways, for both of those, the correlation is essentially 0. Sample size wasn't massive, but it was big enough where there should have been some sort of correlation. And in any case, with no correlation, that means that there's no relationship between the data points, which means you shouldn't rely on it for any sort of predictions or anything like that. Now, otherwise, what I use to do my predictions and sports betting is an algorithm I have that I've created. Now, I don't show that during streams or go over any of the fine details, but some data points that are most relevant to that algorithm are goaltending and goal differential. And another point that I think is relevant is shot differential. So those are the main data points we'll go over in order to kind of, well, for me to give my predictions and then otherwise, to tell you, I guess, kind of what the data indicates. Now, of course, it doesn't tell the whole picture because if you have some sort of way of predicting the future, then of course you're going to be very, very wealthy person, and I don't know of anybody that has done that. So, of course, this is just the best that we can do kind of thing. So, anyways, so to get to it, we will start with goal differential. So we want descending differential. All right, so Toronto ranks 5th for goal differential, 58 for the season, and Florida is 16th. So, and I should say 16 is for the season. So there's a big gap there, at least from a goal differential perspective. Toronto should be able to outscore Florida. Now, again, to contrast, you have 127 for Boston with the 16 for Florida, and Florida won the series. So it doesn't tell you everything, but it's a data point that is relevant. The other thing that I mentioned in the preview for Boston Florida is the previous season to remember that Florida, if I'm not mistaken, was the President's Trophy winner. And so their team hasn't really changed that much. So you're more or less looking at a President's Trophy winning team against Toronto, which has performed approximately the same both seasons. So you've got a team that's been very up and down versus a team that's been very consistent. So take with it, what you will. But so long story short, from a goal differential perspective, there's a large gap, but doesn't mean anything. It's difficult to say. Now moving over to one sec. Shot differential. Oh, whoops. We want it descending. So from a shot differential perspective, Florida ranks 4th and Toronto ranks 8th. So 5.1 per game for Florida and 2.5 per game for Toronto. So something I'd mentioned previously is if teams score approximately the same, then the difference maker might be shots for, shot differential. And so in this case, I would argue that the series is probably closer than people would anticipate. Now, of course, everybody already knows that because they beat Boston. So, but yeah, I mean, even more so, people need to, it's not just a fluke that Florida beat Boston. They lead in shot differential from the season, despite being 16th, I think it was, for goal differential. So just keep in mind that maybe they just weren't scoring at a good enough rate based on their shots. Maybe that's the reason why they were so much lower in the standings. The other thing, again, that I mentioned in the first round is they had a change of coach, so maybe it takes time to get used to the coaching style, playing style. So things like that just to factor in. So Toronto is basically the same team now. Of course, they've made some additions. Now the thing to keep in mind about that is how much does it impact the cohesiveness of the group, the chemistry of the lines. By adding in these players, does it make a coach want to make more changes to the lines? And then can that impact their performance from trying to make too many changes? There's a whole bunch of different things with Toronto where there's a lot of things at play. Florida, yes, in terms of coach, but in terms of players, not really. So the one thing is line changes. I don't know exactly what's happened since Maurice has been coach. So anyways, there's a lot of different things at play for Toronto because of the changes to the roster. Florida, no. Florida for a coach. Toronto, no for a coach. So there's a lot of different things. It's hard to say which impact which. We know that Florida's on a roll. They had to really push to make the playoffs. Another thing to pat myself on the back for is I said, not to completely pat myself on the back for, I said of all teams that were outside of a playoff spot, I thought Florida had the best chance of making it. They did make it, but I should say that I said that in all likelihood they wouldn't. So I knew that they were a good team. I just I didn't think they were good enough necessarily to make it in, but they could. And so anyways, just long story short, I haven't underestimated Florida in any way. I think a lot of people are underestimating Florida, and especially in this series. So they go and they beat Boston, and then everybody's going to be like, "Oh yeah, well, they beat Boston, but can they beat Toronto too?" And I'm going to say, "Yeah, I think they probably can." Will they? I still don't know. We've only looked at 2 data points so far. So anyway, so those are a couple of things. So Toronto leads on goal differential. Florida is better on shot differential by about 2.5 shots a game, which is something. It's relevant. So there's that. And then now goaltending, which, as I mentioned previously, can be a huge equalizer and could change what happens in a series. Now, what I'm going to be looking at is regular season performance. The reason being is because there's a larger sample size. Likewise, the correlation between playoff performance and for goaltenders, and then so past playoff with future playoff is not necessarily as strong as regular season with playoffs. So just some things that I've done that I can tell you are true. And so now taking a look at goaltending, we'll start with Florida because they're first alphabetically. So Bobrovsky, 24, 20, and 3 is his record. Not very good. Save percentage 901, also not very good. These playoffs so far, he's gotten some wins, but save percentage has not been very good. So, and remember, people have to remember that he's been a Vezina. I think he won the trophy. At the very least, was finalist. But he's previously been the best goalie in the league, or one of the best goalies. So, yeah, hasn't been as good as of late, but he's a decent goalie. So, I mean, you never know. Sometimes he can get hot, and especially if you've got that kind of pedigree. So, there's that. Lyon, he basically got them into the playoffs from being outside. So, 9-4-2, 914 save percentage. So save percentage is about league average. I think it's 914, 915. So good enough goaltending. And the rumors are that he's going to be starting in game 1. Don't know for sure if that's been confirmed or not. So we'll see. I don't think it's a bad idea. But I think they kept him in net for maybe too long in the first round. If he loses the first game, maybe go right back to Bobrovsky because he's played and he's won. So that's what I would do. But anyway, so Lyon, in theory, so he's got the better stats so far in the playoffs, except for win, like he hasn't won. So there's winning versus save percentage, and neither are all that great for both of them. So anyway, so I don't think it's a bad idea to start with Lyon because he got them into the playoffs. I think it's fair, but I would have an extremely short leash on him. One game, you might even not. You might switch goalies. In all likelihood, they're going to give him 2, especially because they're on the road. But personally, I would only give him 1 just so that Bobrovsky doesn't get too cold. So anyways, that's just my opinion in terms of strategy. Spencer Knight, I don't think he's going to play. I think he's in the player assistance program. I don't know for sure. But anyways, he's currently not playing. So I'm pretty sure that's where he was and that's where he still is. But in any case. So goaltending, not very strong in Florida and not consistent. So, but could be streaky from both of them. So it's really tough to know what's going to happen with them. And then for Toronto, we know Matt Murray is still coming back from a concussion. He's supposed to be the third stringer. 903 save percentage, not very good. 14, 8, and 2, so not a bad record. But it doesn't seem like he's going to play at least early on. Samsonov, 27, 10, and 5. 919 save percentage, so above league average. His stats in the first round, not very good, but good enough to win a series. So personally, I'm kind of not confident that he's going to be strong. I mean, they were against Tampa, a very good team, but he doesn't have much history in the playoffs, and to have not stood out as a strong performer in the first round, he could easily have a bad playoff or bad second round. But altogether, it would be a bad playoff anyways, because not the best of first round. Although he got to the second round. But anyways. So I would say not certain that his goaltending is going to be good. Good season, playoffs not so good. Don't really know what's going to happen. I don't know who their backup is right now. I think it's Wall. 6-1-0, 9-3-2, but I think he had a really bad save percentage, and I think he only played one game or a portion of a game. But anyways, so just goaltending is not very strong in Toronto. If I had any control, I would try to get Matt Murray in as soon as he's healthy, because I would be more confident in him than the current tandem. Samsonov could play well. Who's to say? Toronto, they've just gotten past the first round after all these years. I think it's, 20 years? So, and this team hasn't done it. I mean, there's some additions that are decent, so yeah, maybe. But I don't know. So without Matt, if Matt Murray was in as an active goalie, I would say Toronto probably has the better tandem between Murray and Samsonov. But without Murray, I'm just not confident about Samsonov. Not that I'm confident about Florida either, but especially going into your third string goalie in Toronto, if Samsonov doesn't play well, I think you're in trouble. And plus their trouble of going deep into the playoffs previously. I'm not confident about Toronto at all. So goaltending, I'd say it's in Toronto's favor, but it's very slight and very fragile, I would argue. So altogether, I mean, really from... I forgot to pull that up. Just 1 second. Predictions. So, why did it do that? So now just going over to make my predictions. So according to the data, it should be Toronto that wins. And so I have been putting that in brackets, I believe. Yeah. So Toronto should win the series. But before the season, if you've seen some of my other streams already, you'd know that I predicted, or I have the Panthers as one of my favorites. Or, sorry, I should say, before the season, I had the Florida Panthers as one of my favorites to win the Cup. They were barely able to make it in, so, I mean, that makes me not as confident about them, but they got through Boston. Why can't they get through Toronto? And the fact that I had them as a favorite before the season means there's good reason to still support them as a favorite in the series. So I'm going to pick Florida to beat Toronto. Uh, and to be honest, I didn't know exactly what I was going to pick before the stream. But I think, I mean, so I learned my lesson not to bet against Toronto in terms of making the playoffs. But in the playoffs, I just can't. I think Florida's going to be on a roll. And is Florida going to get to the finals or win the cup? That I can't say. But I don't know. I think Florida's going to beat Toronto. It feels like they can, and they will. So I'm going to predict Florida. Data says Toronto, and to be honest, it's really a coin toss in my opinion. So if I get it wrong, I mean, I don't think it's by much. Now, I should say before the season, I would have said, actually, you know what? No, because I looked at the data earlier, I think a couple of days ago or something like that, that Florida is not that much of a favorite. So, yeah. So really it is a coin toss. I still have Florida as a favorite, but yeah, it really is a coin toss. But anyways, so that's that. Next, we'll move on to Dallas, Seattle. Now, already I can tell you, for me, this one's an easy pick. Could it be closer than I expect? Probably. But yeah, anyways, we'll take a look at the data before we draw conclusions. Okay, so first with... Did I do it? Yeah. So first with goal differential. Dallas is fourth best at 66 for the season. And Seattle is 10th at 37. So not too close, but not that far apart either over the span of a season. Remember, that's a differential for 82 games, so really it's not that much on a per game basis. So pretty close, you could say, from a goal differential perspective. Moving over to shot differential. Whoops, why didn't I do anything? Oh, that's why. Descending shot differential. Okay, so for shot differential, Seattle is 6th, and where is Dallas? 13th. So 6th is 3.5 shots per game. 13th is 2. So 1.5 per game difference. I mean, it's not that much, but it's something. And that's per game. So there is, a decent enough gap in terms of shots. Now, the thing to think about is, like I've said previously, with the goal differential being, not too huge, like the gap between the two teams, and then the shot differential being flipped. It's like I said with Seattle versus Colorado, a shot differential when yours is better, if you just outshoot the competition, which is what kind of happened, I think in the first round with Seattle, if I'm not mistaken. I did a recap earlier today and I already can't remember, but I'm pretty sure the shot differential was in Seattle's favor. And yeah, I mean, if you just outshoot the competition, you just need the goalie on the other side to just not make one save, couple saves in a series. Like, you can really switch it. And like we saw with some of the series in the first round, it was a goal was the difference between the two teams. So in the end, it looks like Seattle has a shot against Dallas. I mean, they had a shot against Colorado, so obviously they have a shot against Dallas too. Um, that being said, I do think Dallas is a substantially better defensive team. They also have substantially more experience. This is a team that's gotten to the final, I think it was a couple years ago against Tampa. And otherwise, I mean, they've been a decent team for a long time. Their goaltending's gotten more experience. They've got some younger guys that have come in and become performers. So, anyways, so I just think Dallas, I'm more confident about them than I was about Colorado. So, in my opinion, actually, I can't get to the prediction yet. I got to talk about goaltending. So before I get to that, we've got for Dallas Wedgwood 9-8-3, 915. So league average save percentage not bad. Just record's not that good. Oettinger 37-11-11, 919 save percentage. Now, the one thing I'd be concerned about is that's a lot of starts, so he could have fatigue come in at some point during these playoffs. And that is it for the team. So, but both goalies good save percentage, so no matter what, it's pretty stable in net for Dallas. Just keep an eye out for if they get past Seattle, what happens later in the playoffs, because I think, and Ottinger's hasn't played that kind of games, I think, in his career. I might as well just pull it up since it's right here. Where is... I mean, he hasn't played many games at all in his career at all. But so, yeah, so he hasn't even played close to this number of games. And so just be mindful if they do get past Seattle, that could come back to haunt them, playing him so much. But anyways, and that's because that's something Vasilevsky has said, and he played about the same number of games, so just something to be mindful of. Mind you, they've gone to Stanley Cup twice, finals once, and I mean, so fatigue does, wear and tear over time. But anyways, so just some side note, but very good goaltending stats for Dallas. Going over to Seattle, Jones 27-13-3, 887. Good record, really bad save percentage. Grubauer 17-14-4, 895. I mean, he's played well so far these playoffs, but that's a really bad season performance. And then Decord didn't play much, so it's basically those two goalies. So, I mean, Dallas has a clear edge in goaltending, even with Grubauer playing well so far these playoffs. But goal differential in Dallas's favor, shot differential for Seattle, not by a crazy margin, but by something. And then goaltending, Dallas. So the data indicate that Dallas should win. Experience-wise, clearly Dallas should win. So, I mean, I would argue, and especially when you look at regular season performance for the goalies, Dallas is definitely ahead in goaltending from a larger sample size. So I think, to be honest, I think it's a very clear win for Dallas. In particular because of the experience factor, but also the data indicate that Dallas is going to win. So I think it's going to be Dallas. I think it's going to be a pretty clear win, just like their first round. Probably a short number of games. Maybe it could go to 6, but I think Dallas is going to win pretty clearly in this series. So Dallas is looking pretty good so far, but they have to play the winner of Vegas versus Edmonton. So, yeah, looking like a tough route to the Cup final if they can get past Seattle. So anyways, so those are the predictions. So just to recap, Dallas over Seattle, both my prediction in the data, and then I'm going to predict an upset for Florida to beat Toronto, but the data indicate that Toronto should win. Although the data indicated that Boston should have very clearly won, and they didn't. So we'll see what happens. So anyways, so those are my predictions and what the data say, and we'll leave it there. So once again, thanks for tuning in. If you like the stream, hit the like button, share with your friends, subscribe, turn on notifications. Otherwise, channel homepage has upcoming streams. On the days that I do stream, it should be 3 p.m. Eastern. Except for today was an odd one because I had to do 2 streams to cover the recaps and predictions in a timely manner. But tomorrow the previews will be 3 p.m. Eastern, and going to be covering the Vegas, Edmonton, New Jersey, Carolina series and giving you previews and predictions for those. So that's what's coming up tomorrow. And then after that, again, we'll have recaps at the end of that round and predictions for the next round and previews for those. And like I said at the beginning of this stream, probably we'll get to my NHL 23 streams starting next round. So as long as everything goes according to plan. So anyways, so that's what's coming up. And oh yeah, as always, any comments, leave them in the comments, and suggestions, same thing. So, so once again, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you guys tomorrow.